All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to another Build Your Presence webinar. There's going to be a lot of tips and best practices in this webinar on lead conversion. This is a part 2 of a 2-part series. We'll send a recording afterwards, so you can watch it back in your own time and you can rewind it back to the bits that resonated with you. But I'm excited to have Marianne here with us. She leads our paid media team at Luxury Presence, and I wanted to pick her brain. She is the resident expert in all things lead conversion and lead generation. So Marianne, I wanted to pass it over to you and just let everyone know a bit more about your background, your history of marketing, how you got into real estate. I think it'll be super interesting for people.
Yeah, so I have been working with real estate agents for almost the past 10 years, everything from marketing, not to age how long I've been doing this, but when Craigslist had its posters and that was a big deal in real estate marketing, that's how far back I've been helping agents. So helping them generate leads, grow their business, and have moved, on to help real estate coaches, as well as learn from some of the best real estate agents. And I'm now here at Luxury Presence, passing on that knowledge that I've learned on how to generate leads and also how to convert leads to prospects to clients. So exciting to be here. Yeah,
it's going to be some good stuff. This is the tricky one, right? With lead conversion is always the part where people get stuck. It's pretty easy to generate leads if you throw enough money behind it, but the conversion part is where the nuance happens. So I'm really excited to talk to you about this sort of stuff. Can you explain real quick why lead nurturing and conversion is so important in the real estate business?
Yeah, so lead nurturing really becomes crucially important is you've generated these leads. They're now in your database. Now what? And the most important thing is starting that line of communication. It can be something as simple as, thank you for visiting my website. Here's my information. I'd love to connect and tell you why I'm a great agent. Obviously in better words than that, but that's really the starting point. And from there, it's important to showcase a few things, how you help people in an important transaction. For some people, the most important, transaction they'll ever do in their lifetime. So really understanding how you're there to help, how you can help them, why you're the expert in your market, and establishing that trust. That is what lead nurturing does. And that is what you need to convey to people who have signed up to use your website. So that's really the importance of lead nurturing and why we need to do it. They won't ever know how great you are if you don't start that conversation.
Right. Yeah. So discoverability, right? Like getting in front of people, especially if you want to stand out in today's market. I mean, 2023 is going to prove to be a pretty divisive year for real estate, and the competition aspect is going to become, you're going to have to find ways to stand out. So if we can get the lead nurturing and the brand building, which is trust building at the end of the day, right? Brand building is trust building. Getting that buttoned up so you can stand out from the competition. It's going to be so important. It's so important. And it's all relationship and trust building at the end of the day. I'd like to dive into the specifics. I think that's why a lot of people are here. What makes a great conversion strategy? Like, could you break down the components of a sequence?
Yeah, absolutely. So it really does start. Okay, so what's the first thing? A person comes in and they visit your site, they've signed up. Now what? Really speed to lead. If you figure out what is the fastest way for you to reach out to this person. We've all heard it. I think every person is every agent has heard speed to lead is important. So we know that that does matter. What is the fastest way that you're going to be able to turn around and say, thank you for signing up for my website. Thank you for reaching out. If it's text messaging, that should be your step one. If you're just fast on the phone, or you think a call is the best way, or it's the fastest way for you to communicate, to pick up the phone, dial, and leave a voicemail if they don't answer, that should be your first step. If it's a simple email, if it's when they signed up, you already have a small script that says, hey, name, thank you for signing up for my website. I'd love to connect with you and learn more about what you're wanting, what your goals are with buying a home or buying or selling a home. Let's never forget that buyers can also be sellers. So always make sure that, we're trying to understand what their ultimate goal is. Just a quick email, send it out, whatever that is. If you're able to do it in the first 5 minutes, great. If you're able to do it in the first hour, that's great. But as long as you're doing it as fast as you can, amazing. Also, just a little side note, because we want to make sure that the person signs up feels a human connection. If they sign up at 1 a.m., don't worry about, your phone ding going off. Do it the next morning when you're in the office. Everybody knows that. But just make sure that you understand that the fastest way you're going to reach them, that should be your step one. And from there, decide a frequency. I personally have been doing this for a really long time. I always like to divide it into a number of days and how you funnel them down. So as soon as a new lead comes in, think of the first 7 days. From your first 7 days, how long, what is your frequency? Are you going to send them an email a day, a text message, or call them every day? You can do that. You can find a sequence, but plan what's going to work for you and what you're going to be able to follow. So make sure that it's something you can follow. I know a lot of people have a lot of thoughts, but if you're just starting out and you're nervous on the phones and you feel better sending emails, send emails and just, get over your fear of phones and plug in a couple phone calls in there. But that should be how you start a sequence. From there, after the first few days, if you speak to somebody, move them out of a sequence and then start a customized plan. If you haven't spoken with a person, continue them and move them to maybe an educational email, or set them up sending them an email once a week about your market, things like that. But put them in a segment where you're going to continuously keep in touch with them and stay in front. Remember, for a lot of people, it is very nervous to start thinking about real estate. For some people, it's a big transaction, whether it's their first home, their second home, or they need to sell their home. So they might just not be ready to talk, or they might have not figured out why they should reach out. But as long as you're constant in your communication, they'll know, like, hey, this is the person. You never know which email, which text message, or which call is going to be the one to have them pick up the phone, reply, or start working with you.
And that's probably where autoresponders come in, right? Because no one in their right mind, let's say you're getting 100 leads a day or more, and you're sitting there and you want to respond to them within 5 minutes, you said, right? You can't sit there. No one can really sit there and respond to these manually, right? So setting up a sequence that allows, or maybe it's a chatbot, maybe you use a text messaging service, or maybe it's a chatbot on your website. I used to have, when I was an agent, I think it was called Drift, one of those the chat, and it was on my phone, and it was connected to my Facebook page. And so, like, I didn't do the autoresponder thing, but the messages came into my phone when I'm out walking the dog, or out running errands. But it very quickly got pretty time consuming. As the leads came in, it was hard to keep up with that. Is that what you'd recommend? Obviously, just running autoresponders in a sequence where it's automated before you kick into a personalization?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we all know that time is money and money is time. So yes, automation is a great thing. I will always recommend that you put some automation behind your sequences. If you're spending all your time following up with leads, you're not out, doing what you do best. So if you're able to set up some autoresponders, there's some great tools out there. Go ahead and set it up. SMS text messaging is a great one. You just set up when a lead comes in, there's a trigger that goes out and they send a quick text message. And then that allows you some time to come in and send an email, There's also great email automations as well. If you want to just, send them an email as soon as they sign up, an email goes out that says, hey, thank you for, signing up. Look forward to connecting. And then you have a sequence and it just sends out emails, and then you step in when they reply back and you get a notification. Same with text messaging. That's also great. If you believe in the power of phone calls, there's also automations for that. There's great, voicemail drops if that is something you want to consider. But yes, arm yourself with the right tools to help you succeed in lead nurturing.
Yeah, I agree with that. Tim in the chat had a pretty good question. Said every day within the first 7 days seems a bit much, seems a bit like stalking, and people could be turned off. I have an opinion on that. I think, speed to lead is the data is out there, right? The faster you get in front of the lead and start talking to them, the better it is. But my opinion is, if somebody opts in, let's say it's a newsletter, or they fill out a form on your website, especially if the form has multiple fields where they're typing in their name or their address or selecting a box, they've opted in. You know which channel they've come through, and they've opted in. So they might not be ready to talk to you, I guess, but that they put in the information, so they want information at the end of the day. So I have no problem texting and emailing leads that many times in a week, especially our attention spans are so it's so hard to keep people's attention these days. So that kind of sequence I think is fine. But do you have an opinion on that, on Tim's question there?
Yeah. So, like I said, I've worked with many agents, and I know that it sounds nerve-wracking because you're like, oh, or they're going to get frustrated. Kind of a moment of clarity that most agents have had, and that I've had myself, is it's not only you that would be doing it. Most likely this person, when they sign up for you, they've probably used a portal as well. They've inquired at, a Redfin or a Zillow. And guess what? They're doing that too. And they're doing it more frequently. So they're sending on behalf of whomever, or Zillow itself, like, hey, I saw that you inquired about a home. Can we connect you with an agent? Zillow's constantly doing that. So is realtor.com. So is Redfin. And you need to be doing that too, because the reality is you can probably help them a lot better, and a person's more likely to go with you than they are Zillow sending them like, can I connect you to someone? Can I help you in some way? So always keep that in mind. And most people get 1,000 text messages, from any company as well. When you sign up for a car, insurance, they're calling, they're texting. So it's the norm now. People understand that you're going to be reaching out. So just, approach with that mentality that that's going to be what everybody's expecting no matter what.
Yeah. And in the last webinar, we spoke about, leads at different stages of the journey. So when somebody's ready, I guess, to fill out a form on your website, or you get them to that end of the journey where they're ready to give you their details, they're towards the end, right? Down funnel is what we mentioned in the last webinar. So it's one of those things, like, they're ready to convert. It's just they need a little push over the edge. But could you give me a peek into what a follow-up sequence could look like at different stages of the journey? So like top of the funnel versus a little bit further down. That would be super interesting, I think.
Yeah. So think of this, I've always like, think of your follow-up sequence as your clients and how you would help them. When let's think back to a place a little bit before the internet, when a person was, starting to look for real estate, and they would contact an agent and they would say, I'm looking for a home. And they would give you a general sense of a market, right? So I'm in the Dallas area. So generally I'd start off with homes for sale in Dallas, and I might look at your website and I might sign up. You have a great website. You've driven me there, and you have a great user MLS search. So I've signed up for your website, but all I've given you is that I'm looking for homes in the Dallas area. And now that you have that information, you have my contact information, and I'm looking in that area. If you're an agent in Dallas, a great follow-up sequence is to get me down funnel. So, hey, I saw that you signed up for a home search in Dallas. I've got, great homes in different neighborhoods. Are you looking for a specific neighborhood in Dallas? That's a great follow-up question. It's a great way to build rapport. It's something that if I'm if I'm new to the Dallas area and I'm moving from another market, or, recently started looking in Dallas, maybe I'm moving from another state to Dallas, it's a great way for me to say, hey, thank you for asking. I don't know much about the Dallas market. That's where my new job is, or I've heard great things. They have great schools, or my husband's company is moving us there, so I don't know much. And it's a great way to drive them to other markets, to ask follow-up questions. So that's really where you can start building. Another one is, let's say you do come in with a person who is a little bit more down funnel. So they performed a search for homes in a specific neighborhood and looking for 2-bedroom, 2-bath. Let's say that's the sequence and you're able to kind of pinpoint that. Another follow-up question is, hey, I saw that you were looking in this particular neighborhood for this size home. What is this the only neighborhood you're looking in? Build some more trust, but also start looking at building around what their search what their search is. A great one for sellers. I know a lot of people, that's the big one that people ask. You got hey, what's my home worth lead? Those are the big ones. How do you build a connection, right? You've sent them an update, you haven't heard back. A great one is, hey, I saw your home, you listed your home, you're interested in the price for your home. Are you only looking because you're interested in knowing what's going on in your market? If so, I'd love to talk to you about some market updates. Or are you looking to sell your home in the next 3 to 6 months? The reason I say 3 to 6 months is because usually people are like, no, now, or I need to sell now. They're more willing to answer that question, or, oh, I'm not really sure. I think closer to a year. 6 months seems so soon. So that gives you an idea of how your follow-up should be. And also add in there, are you also looking to buy a home? Do you need to sell your home in order to buy a home? There's great questions to learn, and add sequence and build content around that for those particular leads. If they're sellers, build emails around questions you would ask somebody on the phone. The same with a buyer, the same with somebody who walked into your office. Think of that. Think of a text message that you would send a person who you've spoken to that wants to buy a home in the next 3 months. And that's how your follow-up should be sequenced. It's natural. Do what you do best, and set yourself up for success. Those objections that you know how to overcome, make those your emails, make those your follow-ups, so you know how to continue that conversation.
It's a good point, actually, because a lot of the time we know how to handle an objection in person, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you're sitting across the table from a buyer or a seller, and they throw a curveball your way, a lot of the agents, they've been in the business 20 years, 10, 15, 20 years, like they know how to handle that objection. But for some reason, when you take that conversation online, it becomes, I think people just tend to overthink it. It's like, how would you generally react if that person was sitting, across the table from you? Because all we're trying to do at the end of the day is provide knowledge and education, mm-hmm. and kind of help, provide solutions to their pain points, right? So an objection handling could just be, you'll be prepared for that anyway. You'll know how to pivot just like you would in real life. But I want to come back a little bit, and do you have an opinion on text versus email? Like, is it good to use a combination, or is there situations when like one is better than the other? I think a lot of agents don't really use text that much, and I want to get your insight on why that's important.
Yeah, so I'm always going to tell you, try a little bit of everything. And the reason is there is no exact science to know what your, potential client is going to prefer. You're busy and on the go. Think of yourself, right? If you're a busy on the go agent, odds are you probably prefer a quick text or a quick ping, or a quick email, right? So think in those terms, like what would be the best way for me to answer somebody? I know they're probably busy, and you can really tell a lot about how a person answers. For example, if they're short on email and they answer you at off times, then they're a busy person and they're coming home tired, and they're just answering at the end of the day. So a text message probably the next time might be a better way. They have their phone on hand. We all have our phones in hand at all times. So that's a great way to do it. If you realize that whoever is not texting you, but they've answered to your emails, eliminate the text message from the sequence, answer in emails. They're probably more comfortable answering emails. They're not sure how to text. It could be a client who's my grandmother still uses the flip phone, but she loves email. She emails me all her updates. So those are things that, we only learn once we kind of start looking for patterns in our clients or our leads as well. And I know everybody's going to be like, call. It never hurts to call. Like, if you can do it, add them to your prospecting. If you have, now I know a lot of agents love to prospect and they have prospecting hours. Add new leads to your prospecting hours. It's always good to call. You never know when they're going to pick up. But if you can, get them on a phone, because once you get them on the phone, you can hook them. So that's what, never forget to call. Like, email and text should never replace calling if possible.
Yeah, I might be the outlier here. Like, I agree with the calling thing, and I've done so many cold calls in my career. I've sat down on the phone for hours and hours cold calling. It might just be, and this is where I guess segmentation comes in, right? Of like knowing who you're talking to or how to segment.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about CRM in a minute, but like segmenting who you're talking to, figuring out what their preferred method of communication is. For me and the market I was in and the people that were my ideal client, they were like me. They were like first time home buyers, buying townhomes. They may have just got married or had a kid or something, and then they're looking to just move from renting to buying. Me personally, like, if somebody called me and I didn't know who they were, I would generally be angry. Like, I'm generally annoyed. Like, why are you calling me? I don't know who you are. But if they texted me, or if I filled out a form on their website, they texted me saying, hey, you filled out a form, can you give me a few times when you're ready to talk? Or, then it's on me. Then it's on my time. They're like, okay, do I want to respond to this text? Or if I'm interested in working with them, and then I'll just send them some times back and get on a call. But I agree, getting on a call is, you can't, short of sending a video chat or being in front of the person, there's no faster way to build rapport. Texts and emails can get misread, but on a phone call, you get to know that person pretty quickly. And I agree that, get them on a phone as soon as you can. I like that. So how would you handle leads that aren't ready to convert? Like, if a lead's gone cold, how would you re-engage them?
Yeah, and look, it happens a lot, especially with online leads. We've all heard it. There's a longer, nurture sequence, and there's a longer nurture time period. But the reality is, your market, and you're a real estate expert. So that's how you re-engage clients. Right now is a great time, for example, to re-engage clients. If you have cold leads that have been sitting, nothing better than updating them on, hey, for example, I recently read that mortgage rates dropped, whether that's true or not, or across the board or however, but that's something that people who are interested in real estate, who might have cooled off and said, I'm going to wait, are interested in. Send a quick email that says, latest update in market for, in whatever market, or have you heard the news? Like, anything that keeps people engaged. You're the expert, you're the real estate expert, so why should I listen to whatever is being said on, my local news, when I can get an email from you that has information about the actual market I'm interested in? It's a quick email to put together. It's a great opener. It's a great way to keep people engaged. They're also, the open rate on those are higher because people feel a little less pressure. They're just getting information, but it's a great way for you to build rapport with that person. And then if I do have a question, for example, about a mortgage rate, and I open my inbox, it's a great way for me to reply to you and say, hey, by the way, I do have a question. Is it still too high? Should I wait a month or two? I see that they're dropping. Like, all of those questions, think of all of the questions that you could get from something like that would open that conversation. It may not be about a specific home or about an open house, but you're getting that person back onto speaking with you, or to start speaking with you. So that's a great time. Also, if you have pocket listings, cold leads, you'd be like, hey, just wanted to let you know I have this great new listing that's off the market. Made me think of you. Even if it didn't, you just want to get it to as many people. The fact that you have off-market listings, to a lot of people, they're like, hey, we've been hearing for a year that it's so competitive and you have to find the right home. This person has off-market listings. It's somebody I should be contacting when I'm ready. And that's another thing you want to put out there, right? That you may have these or you have an open house coming up, those are starting to pop up again. You can send something as simple as, get your home ready for spring. I know it sounds a little bit crazy, but you can put those out. You can have companies create some of the content for you and send them out, blast it to cold leads, and start re-engaging them that way. Because that's a great way to do it, right? It's think of topics that would make you, that make sense seasonally, that makes sense in your market, and that could trigger a person to ask a question.
Yeah, no, I agree that, and like it's supplemental, right? So you can have these in the moment type of emails that go their way, especially if you know that they're looking for something specific, or homes with a pool, or off-market homes. And off-market properties are a massive one, because you're up against Zillow, and they're like Google. They control 90% of the market, and they have all the tech. If I get creeped out sometimes by the emails that I get from them, and they know what I've been looking at, and they're using AI to send properties my way that I might be interested in, and it works. But if you don't have access to that kind of tech, what do you have access to that Zillow doesn't? For the most part, it's off-market properties. It's especially in a market like this, where people are there ready, cash in hand, to put offer down on a house, and there's nothing out there. It's you've got to find some of those homes. And if you're the boots on the ground, if you're the expert on the ground, and you know where some of these properties are, that's value right there. But the email drip campaigns that you spoke about, so important, especially ones that go on for quite a while, right? So I think I've seen a lot of agents stop their email sequence short after a month, or after a couple of weeks. There's no more emails going back to them. If you have an email sequence that's 12 months, 18 months, 2 years even, then that they're getting those emails regularly, once a month. It could be enough. You could send a bunch of emails in the beginning, but then it starts to taper off. And I would consider property search emails, newsletters too. It's a great way to keep in touch with people. If they're looking for a certain house, it doesn't have to be a beautifully designed newsletter. It could just be, here's some more houses, and it just allows you to stay in front of them without putting in too much effort. I agree. That's a super important way to kind of re-engage cold leads. And I'm not here sitting talking to agents all the time, especially if I'm looking for a house or looking to sell a house. But there might be that one moment where I'm thinking, okay, I'm ready now. And because you've been sending the emails, reach out, and it makes it easy for them to connect and get the ball rolling. But this is where I guess a CRM really comes into play, right? Like, it seems impossible for anyone to keep this kind of information in a notes app or in their head. It's the tools are only good if you use them. So why would you think like using tools like a CRM is so important in this day and age?
Yeah. So I mean, look, the reality is we all have 1,000 things going on, especially agents. You're out on appointments, you're getting listings, if you are, if you lead a team, you're also helping other agents. So you've got a lot of things going on. The last thing we would want you to do or expect you to do is to have a little sheet that says, 100 names, and every time you've contacted them. If you are that person, wow, let us know how you do it. But the reality is most of us are not doing that. And that's where a CRM really becomes important, really helps you it's like having an assistant times 20, right? Because all of your information is there. You're getting you're sending your leads in there, you're putting them there. That's where you can segment them easily. So you can put anybody who's, looking to buy a home in this market, and then you can resegment it and say, in the next 6 months, the next 12 months, this is a cold person. I haven't heard from them in years. So I only email them, my newsletter once a month. This is a person who your sphere, for example, and people you want to keep up with, past clients, you want to make sure that anniversaries and you're keeping up with them. If you send postcards, it's a great way to, set yourself a reminder to send a postcard, or, send a happy birthday letter. Some agents do, pumpkin pie drives during Thanksgiving. It's a great time, to send out that invite. It's all there. But most importantly, with a CRM, it gives you the ability to automate as much as possible. So those long sequences that we've been talking about that you should have set up, you have a CRM, easy peasy. You set it up, you put all this list into this, email drip. Most CRMs have some form of email drip. Good. Set it and forget it, right? And then when they make the communication, they exit that sequence, and then you can take them over. It's easy to manage. You can also have notes there if you are having an active conversation with a person, and you're helping them, but they're still a few months out, but you're staying in touch with them. You want to keep, track of which listings you sent them, or what open houses or what markets. Most CRMs have the ability to have a note. It's all in one place. So you just open that contact. It has all of your history in there, and it just lets you stay on track. That is why a CRM is so important for anybody in any industry, especially one where you're converting people to different stages, right? You're moving them down funnel. A CRM is a must-have. Like, if there's one tool I can tell you to have aside from a website to drive traffic, it's you got to have a CRM. So that's probably the second most important thing an agent should have, is some form of, client management tool. And I know somebody asked for a favorite CRM. We here love Follow Up Boss. We believe they have a great, they've nailed it, really. That's what they do. It's their bread and butter is, CRM for real estate agents. So we really recommend them. Give them a look if you haven't had a CRM, or, if you're thinking about switching to a better CRM, they're there. And they're really great. So I think that's one we recommend, and they have all of your tools, and they would connect with your luxury presence website easily, seamlessly. And it's a great way to do that.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Follow Up Boss. They've been, big main player for a number of years now. The one thing I like about Follow Up Boss that not many CRMs are doing, I mean, some have this, but Follow Up Boss, I think, have done it the best, where they already have sequences that you can plug and play. So on top of having all the features a CRM would want to have, like tagging and grouping your contacts and the automation features, the sequences are generally the hard part to come by, right? Like, you can download sequences online. You can go to any old Google search and type in a lead nurturing sequence and download a PDF. The thing about Follow Up Boss is they've already run these sequences. They're already tried and tested. They work. And so now all the work basically comes into you as an agent putting in your spin on it, right? And making sure it fits well with how you want to do business and how you want to communicate. Does it have your tone of voice? Is it, you don't have to follow it to a T. If you don't feel comfortable sending, 3 texts in 10 minutes or whatever the sequence is, if you don't feel comfortable doing it, don't do it. But at least you've got the grounds there that you don't have to start from zero. You can plug in the sequence and just hit the ground running. I love that about Follow Up Boss. I think others probably do this similar sort of thing, but I haven't seen anyone do it as well as they have. Real Scout was another good one that I liked when I used them a little bit. I don't know if they're a CRM, but they had a really good kind of search experience, and it allowed me to really talk to my leads in a more personal way. I like their experience, but for sure, if you don't know which CRM to go with, just go with Follow Up Boss. Brian asked in the chat, will Luxury Presence ever have its own CRM? I think we're working on something, but I've been on teams where we've tried to build CRMs in the past at different companies. It's hard. It's very hard. It's why Compass bought Contactually. It's like, it's a hard software to build. And if somebody's already doing it well, that's how these mergers happen. But keep an eye on our news on our social media if we have any news on that. And you'll be the first to know. But what would you recommend, any sort of metrics to monitor when it comes to conversion, like any key metrics that people should look at?
Yeah, and so we've talked about the metrics you should look at for leads, right? And then once you have them in your CRM, what should you be looking for? And there's a few things that I think agents miss. Overall, we tend to go with how many people answer us actually back, or how many people, answer the phone or call us back. But there's other things to look at as well that will help us have a healthy pipeline for, for other seasons to continue to, keep in touch with. Opens, email opens. I know a lot of people will always look at oh, they're opening my emails. So there's something there. They're actively opening your emails. They haven't unsubscribed. So that's a good sign. So there is something there. Maybe they're a little bit shy. If you notice that a person's opened all of your emails and they're only on a sequence, you're missing out because they're interested in your information, but maybe you should send a personal one. Just take, send an additional email that says, hey, Susie, I've noticed you've checked out our site and you've looked at some of the information we've sent you. Let me know if there's any questions or real estate, related questions that I can help you answer. I'm always here to help my clients. Give yourself a little pat on the back and say, here are some of my reviews on how I've helped so many people, buy the home of their dreams or sell their home, whatever it is, make that connection. That's a great one to look at and keep an eye on. You don't have to do it every day. You can log into your, back end and see your open rates once a week, pull out the people that you notice consistently, or, a lot of CRMs will have some kind of filter to let you know. Another one is how many people click on links. If you're sending, property updates, how many people went back to your site and looked at, clicked on those, and they're actively looking. That means that's somebody that's actively looking. Unless you're, sending them links to the homes of like NBA players and football players and the latest $10 million listing, like that is really a great indicator that this is a person that's actively looking. And your search might be a little bit off. They haven't made it, they haven't made an appointment, or they haven't, but they're looking. So again, ask them, like, is there a specific search you're looking for, a specific market or area? That's a great way to build a connection. And then another one that a lot of people tend to miss is people who, a lot of metric will, if you forward an email or you share, some of your CRMs will allow you to see what actions are taken. How many people, answered your text message. Maybe they answered with yes, no, but they're answering. So there's something there. Maybe text is not the best way. That's also a metric to measure, like how people are responding, how often they're responding, and keep an eye out on those open rates, when they're opening, those link clicks, things like that. Those are going to help you create better sequences and maybe catch that person you might not be thinking of, so not all good leads come in them replying or them starting a conversation right away. I personally have had clients who had those Mickey Mouse leads turned into actual transactions. And the reason I say Mickey Mouse is because they did enter, Mickey Mouse, and they thought it was a fake email. Turns out it was a real email. Those emails were being opened. And now they're, they converted them into a client, and they went from Mickey Mouse to John Smith. So, make sure you're keeping an eye on those.
Mickey Mouse emails, some of these ultra high net worth individuals, it's hard to get a hold of them, right? Like, especially people that are working in the top markets with, $20 million, $30 million homes. Getting in front of those kind of people is hard. Privacy is massive to them. And so that's where the segmentation part, the targeting part, and keeping your CRM organized means that you can then, come out of their bubble. Like who's around them, who's maybe they've got personal trainers or their kids and the kids' friends or assistants, wealth managers. These are all people that you can target that could eventually, get you the deal. It's a more nuanced approach, I guess, at that level. But the principles remain. It's still the same. It's the same principles in terms of following up and personalizing the approach and using all the channels, text, emails, social media. The principles remain. It's just maybe the messaging is tweaked, and if you're working in a certain market, that's your market anyway. And LA, Malibu, New York, these are the top markets in the world, and you're gonna run into people like that, and you just have to get creative, I guess, with getting in front of these people. I want to make sure that we have a few minutes to answer people's questions, but real quickly, do you have any mistakes, any common mistakes that people run into when converting, and things that that people could avoid?
Yeah, so I think the number one mistake we often see is people think that a lead is not a quality lead because it didn't come in with a phone number and just an email, or they gave you a fake name. Like, that is a number one common mistake. If you automatically assume that it's a bad lead, it's going to be a bad lead because you didn't follow up with it. Let's all be honest. I've done it myself as a marketer. I'm like, is this person even real? but the truth is that there is some value in there. So always make sure you understand that every lead plays a role, whether good or bad, or they ever convert from, it helps your rankings on Google and on social. If a person clicks on your ad and signs up, whether it's fake or not, it helps your rankings. It's also a person who is interested, who may not be, email's a great way. Some people genuinely just don't want to get a phone call. They just want an email. Again, the social buttons, for example, a lot of people say, oh, but convenience is key. We all learned it during the pandemic. We all love the convenience of ordering our groceries with one click, or, doing stuff with one click. That one click approach really helps. It brings you up to speed in modern times. Also, if a person signs up with Google, that is their actual email. That is a real email. It's value in there. That's the number one mistake. Not seeing the value in all leads. The second mistake I see a lot of people do is giving up. Like, they call once, email once, text once. If it doesn't happen, I know it kind of falls through the cracks. We let them fall through the cracks. And that's the, second biggest, is you went through all the effort of driving that person to your, to your website. You went through all the effort of making that first point of contact just to drop the ball. So that's a second mistake, not making sure you're following up, not setting up some kind of nurture. And then I think the third biggest mistake I see a lot of agents do is they do not follow up with personalization. They get these kind of cookie cutter templates. We've all seen them. Real estate coaches send them all the time, especially during the first part of the year, like, 10 emails to help you convert your, leads. And they just set them up and they're great to get you started, but there's no follow-up to that. There's no personalization at the end of it. You don't add, something more to it. You don't change your market. You don't add your market. So if you're going to do something like that, make sure you're going in there and you're reading them and you're putting the right information in there. Your contact information is another one. And just, consistency again, just make sure you're staying consistent, good mindset, and set something up.
Yeah, I mean, the lack of communication, the abrupt stop is a big one. Just having something, it's a lot of work up front, right? Just setting it up, but once it's set up, that can feed your machine for years and years and years, and that it's running in the background. And when they're ready to talk to you, that's when you jump in, let the automation do its thing. And then when they give you a call or they send a text, that's it. That's your cue to jump in. We have a lead handling guide. I'll make sure I link it in the follow-up email that I send to you guys. It's a good one to get started. It has a few scripts in there, and it has best practices and suggestions on the cadence or when you should send these messages out. It's not a set it and a forget it approach by all means. It's something to get you started, but like Marion said, put your own spin on it, put your own tone of voice in it, make sure it looks and feels and sounds like you, and generally people are warm to that. We have a few minutes. Does anybody have any questions? You can drop it in the chat or in the Q&A section. I'm seeing Kathy. Oh, Kathy, the CRM that I mentioned was Follow-Up Boss. We were talking about Follow-Up Boss specifically. If you don't have one, it's worth looking into for sure. Does anybody have any questions? Anybody want to come up and chat with us for a couple minutes before we call it a day? The other one we mentioned, Real Scout, Kathy. Real Scout, spelled REALSCOUT. What do you think of Sync CRM, Marion?
Yeah, so I'll give you we don't like talking about obviously bad about anybody. They're a really great platform for sure. They're a great company, but I would say for me personally, the difference between an all-in-one and a company that has spent their time really building out a specific tool, there's a difference there. So again, obviously if you're thinking about them, seem like a great company, they have a lot of success. But if you're looking at, your tools, think of it as what is the best tool. There's a reason why Follow-Up Boss has decided to stay specifically as a CRM. They have built and continue to optimize specifically the CRM and the tools needed in the back end, right? So like Luxury Presence has upped its game for websites, and we've really built, you know, a machine, a whale oil machine on your websites, and, you know, websites that convert, that are beautiful. The same with marketing. You know, we spend a lot of time and resources on figuring out what's the best way to generate leads, especially in luxury markets. You know, we always look at those things. So keep in mind those things, and always look at your companies. Take your time. You know, I think we always tend to think of, oh, this is great, they have great reviews and everything's in one place. But then, you know, well, you end up thinking again. There's a reason why Salesforce is the #1 CRM, and they focus on CRM, you know, on the CRM, and companies, you know, Fortune 500 companies use them as a CRM, and not some of the all-in-ones. So, you know, there's reasons behind that. There's, you know, there's a lot of data on that. So when you're looking for a CRM, really make sure they have the following things: that they're addressing your needs, not only for you, but for your team, that they're going to grow with you, that you're not going to outgrow them. Because there's nothing more painful than being, you know, growing your pipeline, and then your CRM hits a wall and it can't grow with you, or doesn't have the tools you need, or you have to now spend hundreds of dollars more a month so it gives you the tools you need. So always make sure that that's in there, and that you're, you know, getting that answered, and that it has the tools for you to follow up. So that's the most important part. I think that's what you need, and make sure that they are built to help you scale your business, right? Like always go in the mind, like if tomorrow my brand blew up and I all of a sudden had 1 million leads come in, can this handle it? I know that seems like a long shot, but always think that way, because you never know if you're you know, if you're doing TikToks and your TikTok goes viral and then you have 1,000 leads come in. We've seen it from agents that it happens. You never know if you're going to get the most wanted listing in your market, and you're going to, you know, you have to prepare for a lot of incoming leads. So always think that way. Can this handle me scaling? If you're going to get new agents, always think that way. Always look for tools that way. So that way it's easy for you to continue to grow and for them to grow with you.
Yeah, all great points. And I'm just going to say what Greg said in the chat. He said the best CRM is the one you use. 100%. You know, it's you can have all the tools and the feature sets that you want, but if you're not using it, doesn't mean anything. The good thing about us, Luxury Presence, you know, we have a couple of direct integrations, but we can connect to pretty much anything out there with Zapier. So, you know, while we're building out a lot of these CRM types of features and kind of lead nurturing features, within our platform, you could always connect to a follow-up boss or any other CRM that you want to use. That's your preferred method, your preferred tool of choice. And the benefit is with Luxury Presence is it's the best first impression out there by far. I think they're the most beautiful designs. First impressions still count. And with the attention spans these days, you've got, you know, 1 second to capture somebody's attention. And I think we do it best. I'm biased, obviously, I work here, but I agree. I think they're the best. But I think we're at time almost. We're about 5 minutes past the deadline. So anything that I didn't get to, guys, on the Q&A and the chat, I'll make sure that I follow up and I'll send you guys an email, connect you to the relevant person at our team so we can get the questions answered for you. The email, look out for it in the follow-up email. We'll send the lead nurturing guide for you so you can get a look into that. And if you have any questions or any concerns or anything that you want to ask me, feel free to just reply directly back to that email. It'll come straight to me, and we'll get all the questions answered for you. And look out for the next webinar. I think we'll have one in a couple of weeks. I'm enjoying these. I'm really looking forward to doing more chats with experts like Marianne, and enjoy the rest of your Thursday, guys, and we'll catch up soon. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Bye, guys.